It's all about the money. Now, if you don't have any problem on those, on Mula, if you have a deep pockets, there's another swaps out there, which is, I guess I can say it, Case the Way, right? That's the one to go to. But everyone knows a G23 is a contender to a K swap, and you don't have to spend a whole lot. Today's episode, what is the best engine swap for you on your 96 to 2000 Honda Civic? Welcome back to the channel, Sagitnet 2. I would like to give a big thanks to all of you, my OG and the new subscribers, and especially a big shout out to you guys from Canada. You are the most viewers, big supporters of my channel, and I would like to thank you all. Hey, all right. So yeah, this is a 96 Honda Civic. So if you have a 96 to 2000 Honda Civic, this will be a good episode for you. Today I'm going to talk about which swap will be best for you, but don't let my opinion cloud your decision. This is just solely my experience. I'm just fortunate enough to experience both swaps, which is, by the way, I'm going to talk about a G23, which is basically it's the same thing as an H22, because that's what I have on this. Whether you want a little bit more torquey than the H22, then this is the go-to. But of course, reliability, it's a big question in between the two, but that will be on a separate episode. So for now, it's just to help you out a little bit on decision making. But of course, everyone knows when you are doing a swaps, there's a lot of factors that involve, and number one is what kind of platform do you have, parts availability, and the most important thing is expenses. How far are you willing to do or spend on your swap? Do you want a full-blown expensive parts? I mean, everything that you can think of. Or simply you just want it to stay within budget, a budget mind. Both of these swaps have their pros and cons. It's just something that you have to consider. But at the end, it will give you the same result, just about. So it's all about really in how much you want or willing to spend. If you have no problem on spending a lot, there's a swap out there, which is, I guess I can say it, Case the Way. But remember now, a full G23 or a G23 coupled with a B series, it is a contender on a K series motor. I'm not going to open an argument, but everyone knows a G23, they can go head to head with a K series. That being said, all right, I'm going to start with a full G23 setup, and that is coupled with a Honda Prelude transmission, which on mine I happens to be an M2B4, but don't let the number fool you. But what I have in there is from H23A1. I found it to be the internals from H23A1 is much suitable from what I do. So I said earlier that it has a pros and cons. I'm going to start a pros on this one, which is, in my opinion, I think the full H22 or G23 swap is a much easier swap for you on the EK chassis. It's because of you don't really have to prep the block. You don't need no adapter plate, and also you don't need to shave your engine block for clearance on your CV axle for the joints. But of course, your EK engine mount will not gonna work. You need to get the associated engine mounts for your H22 or G23, so it will fit like a gloves on your EK chassis. You don't have to worry about clearances on your bonnet. It'll fit right on, and also the motor will sit normal, meaning straight. Other than mate the transmission and the block, there's no need to shave the block for your clearance for your drive axle, and no adapter that is needed, unlike the H2B. So in my opinion, this is pretty much like it's the easiest swap. The motor is not leaning forward, and also you have a lot of space for your power steering for people that wanted to have a power steering like me, because there's plenty of clearances to install it. All right, the cons on the full H22 swap or G23. Right in the beginning, when I was stuffing this motor onto this, I already knew right away I didn't like the way the CV axle sits, or the way it was hooked up on this chassis. I think maybe my engine mount has something to do with it, or it's just simply that the car is just too low. I mean, the CV axle is like letter Z. And then after a little bit of use, put some mileage in it, and I start experiencing some vibration on the CV axle, which is, once I opened it, I found out that the needle bearings is all shot. So I ended up fixing that. Lucky for me, it was covered by insane shafts, by the way. The way how you like the stance of your car, put a consideration when you're doing a full H22 swap. Because what I have experienced on mine is just kind of weird. I just didn't like the way the axle is installed like that. Yeah, it's out of the norm, I think. So those are the pros and cons on a full H22 or G23 swap on the EK. So now on the H2B, this one is a full H2B or a G2B. Something that I came up with. I used the three concept of the H22 swap on the EK, and I came up with this. Something that is sitting normal, and also I have a place for my power steering. And one thing I really like is I don't complain about the way the axle sits on a car. I can lower my car lower than what I have set up right now, and I would not have no problem on the axle. Cons using a H2B with the adapter plate. Since this one is a full custom, somewhat I can relate to them, right? I mean, that's how I came up with this, because I didn't like the way the motor leaning forward a little bit. Yeah, I just want my motor to be sitting normal. No offense to anyone. I mean, everyone knows when you have that adapter plate, now you have a problem on your bonnet or hood. But the fix on that one is just to add a spacer right here. The oil pan, you have to change the oil pan, otherwise the oil pan will sit angled. The block, it has to be shaved so you can gain clearance for your inner joints right here. The exhaust manifold, you have to get an exhaust manifold that is contour to an H2B. Otherwise, if you get a regular H22 exhaust manifold, it'll be pointing upwards. For the shifter, you have to get a B series linkage, which is somewhat designed for EK with a B series transmission. That way you could shift it just like normal. just like what you had before. On this one, you have to use a cable in order to shift on a full H22 swap. Now for the intake manifold, if you are using an adapter plate, you have to use a certain intake manifold, but I think a spacer will fix that also if you are using a skunk 2 intake manifold or a regular H22 intake manifold. And if you are using an RBC intake manifold, then you don't have to worry about it. It will be leaning downwards. On my setup, I don't want to use an adapter plate, so my fix to that is cut up an H22 intake manifold and re-welded the RBC intake manifold, and that's just how it is sit right now. On a something like this, on a full H22 or G23, if you're thinking about using a RBC intake manifold with an adapter, then you have to worry about your rear T-bracket, because it sure is going to hit. Like I said earlier, if there's a will, there's always a way. Not to mention the thermostat switch sensor, that has to be addressed also. But on mine, what I did, I cut it off and I re-welded it pointing downwards. Expenses wise, I say it was still gonna cost you just about the same amount, because on a full H22 or a full G23, you have to buy the axle, you have to buy the mounts, you have to buy the shifter and cables. And on the H2B, you have to buy the adapter plate. It's a kit that you could get together with the post mount, engine mounts, spacers, linkage, the axle. You both have to get an axles. The transmission, since the EK doesn't come with a B series transmission, not unless you have a B16 in it, which is the EM1. Someone have asked me before, since I have experienced a full H22 or a G23 swap on this chassis, now that I have an H2B, G2B setup, which one would I prefer? It's a big question, man. Big question for me. I never did really answer him fully, but in my opinion, I like the B series better. There is no Honda transmission out there that it can give you that feeling of from first, second, and third. It says it all. First gear on this one, I was able to floor it. When I have a full swap, I never did. Only second gear. I always start on second gear, never on first gear. But this one, no problem whatsoever. If anything that I have left out, please feel free to leave a comment. I know, I mean, there's a lot of things to say, a lot of things to cover on both of these. But to recap, the full H22 or G23 is the much easier swap you could do. On the EK, it's because of the engine and transmission setup. Pros and cons, they both have ones. I have said it earlier. Power wise, they're both the same. Don't let my opinion cloud your judgment, but it's all up to you. You can't go wrong to either one of these. The full swap and a G2B setup, H2B, yeah, you will be happy. All right, well, thank you all for watching. Hey, if you like this episode, make sure to hit that like button, share, and leave a comment. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, everyone. Hey.